What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Behind the Door Podcast with always attractive Jeremy Hill and a good friend of ours, Steve Gregoire. Thanks for coming on today, man. It's good to see you. It's been a very, very long time since I saw you, bro.
Very.
It's good to see you out here, man, living your life, coming through in the leather. I like it.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
For anybody that's not watching and only listening, the leather's nice. Just know that. But, yeah, we're going to talk to Steve today, man. We're going to just talk to Steve about life and prison and just a ton of things, man. So I'm going to toss it to you, Jeremy, just to get us started, man.
Yeah, well, Steve, one of my good friends, man. I'm really glad you're home for real, man. We have some history together. I can remember. I was just sitting here remembering that when 9/11 happened, me and Stevie was in the yard in Thomaston, and it was like, I'll never forget that day for the rest of my life, because it was just, we were literally in this little area, and where that little TV was off the pool hall in the old prison. We were like, what is going on? We heard that something was going down, so but I just remember experience.
That's wild.
With you, man, and just to think about how long ago that was. That was in what was that, in 2001?
Yeah.
That was in 2001. It's 2023 now. Here we are. Unfortunately, one of the things I've always thought, man, is I wish he was out here with us more often. I mean, for those people that don't know, Stevie he did some time, a lot of time. About 24, 25 years? 22, 18 in one stretch. He just came home from another probation stuff and all that. Yeah, I'm glad you're here, man. I really am. I was just reflecting on how far that goes. Obviously, there was good things and not so good things. But like, just that we're here right now and that you have an opportunity to keep it moving, man. I'm just glad you're here, because like you said, we were talking about a little while ago, like we've lost a lot of people over this. It's particularly this year in particular. It's been a tough one. So every time we're above grass, man, it's good, So
Steve, just introduce yourself.
All right, my name's Steve. I just did like 22 years, and I'm just got out this week, and I'm with two of my partners here that I've known for forever today. At least 15 years. We go, all of us, way back. We all did time together from beginning to the end. And where these two have manifested, and damn, I should have been with you guys sooner. You know what I mean? And I have an opportunity, and anybody who's listening out there, knowing where these two have come from and knowing where I'm sitting right now, like, they're in the right direction. These two are winning right now, and I definitely want to be on that same page.
Man, I didn't even lie to you. It kind of messed me up to hear you tell that, like, for people to have that context that you guys were in Thomaston during 9/11. Number one, it made me feel like a baby, because I was like, I think I was a freshman when 9/11 happened, but also it made me realize, like, as long as I've known you, Steve, that really put into context for me that when I came in, that you had been there. And like, I always knew that, you know what I'm saying? But like, I'm just thinking about how prison can kind of like mess up your sense of time and reality.
Yeah.
That for some reason now, 16 years later, that sunk in for me, bro. That like, the time that you just did is like, that's crazy for people to really wrap their head around. Man, I met somebody in Atlanta. Jeremy and I met a guy in Atlanta who was in prison when man walked on the moon and came home 2 years ago. And that was like, I'm having a similar experience right now to when we met. Shout out to my man Irv, if you're listening, you know what I mean? Like, it's wild, man. And I'm interested for you, Stevie, like, this is your second time coming home, right? And what's different for you this time compared to last time?
The people that I really cared about, that I really wanted to see, are all gone. And listen, and you don't realize that when you're making mistakes, you're in the streets, you're living your life, everything's coming in, you're living like a rock star in a movie, and you think you're just like indestructible, so on and so forth. And this time when I came home, like, all the people I was really close to, that I came up with, they're dead. They're gone. You know what I mean? And that was probably one of the biggest reality checks of between now and then. And that's why this time it's hard. It's definitely hard. That's probably my biggest difference. And last time I just came home, I wasn't in the right state of mind. I was still the old me, because I know you can attest to this, is when you go in, your maturity level slows down a little bit. And you do all that time. And some people get it. Some people grow up really fast. Then you got some people sitting in seg, you know what I mean, doing all the dumb stuff down there. So
some people get stuck, right? Like you come in at 21 and you get out at 36, but you get out at 21.
Correct. And that's what happened to me last time. And that's why I didn't make it. I ended up by doing a second trip. And then a couple of years into this one, I got a few reality checks that really hit me. And it changed my whole focus and changed what I really, really want to do. And now it's time to win, because there is no other chance after this.
And it's like, even when I hear you say it's time to win, man, it's so important to have that mentality, right? But I also, like, what winning means now compared to what winning meant last time you came home, like, what it looks like is what's different, man. And it's, you know, big shout out to you to, like, do what it takes to make that transition about figuring out what winning actually looks like to you. We just had a conversation a minute ago before we started this about, like, we were all kind of like joking on ourselves about being young and dumb and in the streets and everything. And we were talking about how the toughest dude in the world at this point is not the one who could come in here and lay the three of us out. Just gonna say, I don't know if there's anybody that can come in here and lay the three of us out. I just want to put that out there. That's my prison ego kicking in. But it's not that dude. It's the dude who wakes up every morning, and you said this, with his back is hurting, and he goes to work. And it's when that dude has a problem and a conflict and he walks away because he knows he has kids to support and he knows he has responsibilities to take care of. That's the toughest dude. And I never thought about that before I went to prison, right? And I didn't think about that for probably the first half of my bid either, because the culture that I was in was like, no, the toughest dude is the one who's the quickest to snap, right? And the one who's like, I never believed that the toughest dude in the prison was the loudest. I think we saw that was probably not the case most of the time, but it was the one who was like, you actually had to question what you said to him, right? And I'm in the same boat as you now at this point in my life. Like, that's not tough to me. The toughest thing I could have done in my life was walked away from the problem that brought me to prison, and then who knows how much different my life would have changed. But, you know, for you guys going back so far that you go back and being in Thomaston and, you know, like having this relationship that you have, it's just really important to have people that affirm that for you. You know what I mean? Like, that remind you in those moments that, like, life is so much more than reputation and ego. It's wild, man.
The way to win, if I could teach anybody that's inside the system right now to get to a spot to make it for their release, then my number one piece of advice I give to anybody is this: you got to just stay humble. You know what I mean? Because, like, when you're, you know, locked up on the inside, the smallest things have the biggest value. You know, how many trigger words that we got, us three, to start scrapping back in the day, just because they said, now you go to any construction site in America and you hear those similar trigger words and they don't even mean nothing anymore. So because your microcosm that you're living in is so small and what you have is just like, so you have nothing because it's been stripped from you, whether you realize it or not. And you're sitting there and that one bottle of Gatorade's worth so much or whatever it is. So if you touch this, whatever, we're going to fight, we're going to do this. The hardest thing for me, which was the best thing, is I humbled. And because of that, I got so far. I got further, I hate to say it's inside the DOC than I've ever done before on my last trip.
But you also never had a chance. And that's something that we've been talking about a lot on this podcast. And, you know, I was thinking about this a lot lately. Maybe a lot of people that are listening don't know. Maine gives out more time than any other state in the country. A lot of people don't believe that. They don't know that. That's a true statistic, that we are the harshest sentencing state in the United States of America. And so you take people like you, because how old were you when you got locked up?
18 years old, got sentenced to 25 years old, but 18.
So, you know, 18-year-old gets sentenced to 25, all but 18. I was 21 when I got 27, all but 17. Jeremy's first time in the system was 13. And we live in a state that completely ignores science and the fact that we know people's brains are underdeveloped before the age of 25, and that your decision-making functions in the brain aren't, you know, where they're going to be at 25. And so for you, it's a story that's really important for people to hear, because, like, you went in at 18 and you did an 18-year bid and you came home, and how the fuck were you supposed to know?
How is a civilian supposed to know how to be a convict if they first walk through the door? They're not going to know the rules and regulations. So
I have a little bit because I saw Stevie when he first went in, like we were doing, like when he was first going in when he was a teenager, and then I saw what happened when he had gotten out. But I don't necessarily think. I think, this is just from where I was sitting, right? Like all I can do is talk about that, right? But from my perspective, where it happened, because I'd thought about that a lot after you went back in, because I was like, man. Because there was right, but there was this like sense of like you were doing well. You had a house. You were working every day. You worked out at the other, like Gray Street and stuff. And there was a time when you were your head was down. You were like, okay, this is what I'm doing. But I think what happens for a lot of people that get out, you're 18 when you go in, 18, another 18 years on top of that, that's 36. I think you did that shit day for day, maybe. Pretty much. So you get out when you're 35, 36 years old, and we want to be farther ahead than I'm 35, 36 years old, and everybody around me has the house, they have the thing, they've been working, they've been doing this and that, and then we're trying to keep up with what's going on. I feel like there was a lot of that had happened for you at that time, and then it was like, I know how to move a little faster and make the extra dollar and fucking this and that. You know what I mean? And I think that in a lot of ways is where you got tripped up a little bit, because we had some. I mean, we were going to Red Sox. You know what I mean? All that stuff is fucking all well and good, but like, how do you just keep focused on, okay, I don't have to make all this. I don't have to do all this. I just have to stay focused on this today and like take it as it comes. You know what I mean? That's what you're talking about. You say humble. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I just say this is that, but when you was a kid, it was wild. It was a wild, and it was like so now like being a man and coming home is a little different.
Perception of winning. I don't know if that was on the show when we first talked, or maybe it was a conversation was happening. That's what it is. The difference when you're an 18-year-old kid and you're watching TV, you're watching movies, you're watching this, and you know what I mean, and you're trying to represent the bad guy, so on and so forth. And now I have a different perception of winning. You know what I mean? We all got older, you know what I mean? And you want something different, whether it's your vehicle, your house, or whatever, So.
To be honest, one of the things that stood out to me when you went back was the fact that, and you can say what it is about this, but like, he was a guy, you just got done doing 18 years, and then, young guy, and I think probation was the first time probation had ever gone to your house, or really, I was shocked. You were like, yo, probably I only gotta go in here once a month, laughing with that laugh. I go, oh fucking boy, here we go. But I felt like there wasn't like a whole lot of support. You didn't receive a whole lot of support, and I feel like if there was more support, like there was that time when things was going like this. I'm going like, how the fuck is he able to just do, like, I just, with no, like, real, and I was like, man, I felt like there could have been an intervention before you had to go do another 6-7 years, you know? Right. You would just let them be.
But that's also part of the problem we talked about a lot in different aspects on the podcast, is like, how do you go from 18 years of rejecting support? Because like, you don't get support when you're in prison, and even... Yeah, and even when you even when you have people in your community, like I had my family held me down my whole bid, and like for me, but I always felt self-conscious about getting support. You know what I mean? Like I went through times where I asked my friends and family, like, yo, please don't send me money. Like I work, I'm like I have a job, I can provide for myself. Like I started because, and it's what you were talking about too, Jeremy, where it's like, I didn't want to feel like a leech. I didn't want to feel like I needed support. I wanted to feel some type of like independence as a man, right? And then you got the other side of it was in prison, like you said, I didn't talk to mental health a single time in my whole bid, except for when I changed facilities and I was forced to. I'm not gonna engage with the system when it comes to support.
Well, when I was coming up with the system, you go and talk to the council, everybody's gonna think you're telling.
And that's what I mean. And so
that's why I thought, listen, if you're cutting up and you're going to some counselor, that dude's a snitch. When you go in that office by yourself,
that's why you're programmed to believe.
So that programming, like you said, you come home after 18 years, and it's not even just that you want to be where everybody else is at, even though you didn't have the chances that everybody else had. but you also don't know how to or when to ask somebody for some guidance.
And as a man, that's a hard thing to admit. As a man, and as a man that has taken care of himself for 18 years, you know what I mean?
And learned how to thrive. Yeah, and learned how to survive.
I had to live off the streets on the inside, just like I was living off the streets on the outside. So I was the dude really doing that. You know what I mean? So it caught me 5 years in Supermax, and that gets old after a while. It took me 9 years to get one day good time. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of different ways I could have done that, but unfortunately, I envy somebody like what you just said. I envy. Like, I wish I had somebody sending me in something. You know what I mean? The struggle was real. Like, there was nights like, damn, we were scrounging to grab soups and peanuts or whatever and all this shit, and that's like a big deal then. You know what I mean? But I wish I had a support system. If a guy at my age, when I was younger, had some type of mentor or some type of like support system already in place or whatever, it would have done a lot more. Maybe my life wouldn't be so affected because I went in there with a bad attitude, so on and so forth, but somebody else will.
Well, and I think that's my thing that we've talked about a little bit on the podcast, and we talk about, like, you know, Jeremy and I talk about a lot in the work that we do too, is like, I always struggle when people don't understand how Stevie goes to prison at 18 and your bid happens exactly how it does when you didn't have support and you had all these expectations about what prison was going to be based on the information that you've received your whole life. And it's why we're always advocating for like a healthier system, a healthier approach to these type of things, because that the isolation is damaging. The fact that we send kids to prison for long periods of time, super damaging, right? The complete disconnection from society is super damaging. When somebody doesn't have a community, doesn't have mentors that could have shown them the way, and then makes a mistake at 18, the fact that we take those chances away from them even more by sending them to prison instead of putting things that people need in place doesn't make any sense. It doesn't get the outcomes we want. We wonder why people like you end up doing 5 years in SED because you were just trying to survive in prison at the age of 19 years old. What the hell do we expect from people? And it's like, some people it's easy to have that conversation with out here, and some people it's really hard to have that conversation with out here because they're so entrenched in, well, he shouldn't have done what he did. He's a fucking kid, man. Like, what, you shouldn't have done half the things you did when you were a kid. The difference, you have people in place to teach you the difference, and not everybody has that. And we can't punish people for things that they didn't choose. We're always talking about that. And then like another thing that really struck me when you were talking, Jeremy, was like, when we think about even the concept of time, as somebody who has done a lot of prison time, right? When I went to prison doing 17 years, I couldn't think 17 years into the future. I would have killed myself, bro. If I went in day one and thought about 17 years, I wouldn't have survived. I had to think about tomorrow, right? And then like 5 years in, I had to think about next year. And then 10 years in, okay, I might be eligible for minimum. I'm gonna start thinking about that. It took me a long time to practice forecasting into the future to think about my success. And so it's another skill you learn in prison, right? I gotta survive today. I gotta figure out tomorrow, and maybe I'll be to a point where I start planning out my next 5 years or whatever. But that's pretty rare. And then you come home, and again, you're just doing what the system taught you to do. I'm thinking about tomorrow. I'm thinking about, this is what I want. This is what I need. I need that shit tomorrow. I'm not thinking about, well, 5 years from now, if I keep my head down and I work this job and then slowly graduate into this and this and that. You've not been trained to think that way. So again, when you came home, you just were using the tools that the system gave you.
Right, that's it. So like right now, the same thing you just said, going at 18, I just got out for the second time. I got half my life in there. Without people like you that I met that are doing good, and with all my real friends that I thought were like my soldiers back in the day when we were doing all the batches, they're all dead and gone. Just the people doing good are still surviving. So which side do you want to be on?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And without Jeremy, without you, like, I wouldn't even have a support system out here. Because like I said, my closest people, the guys I was riding with, fentanyl's killing them all. 100%, left and right, you know what I mean? And
it's killing them because they're doing what they learned in prison.
And that's it. They were just breaking up the monotony. Most of them ain't even really hardcore. They become addicts because they're stuck in like the same thing, the same Groundhog Day over and over and over and over. They just want to break up that monotonous and just break up your cycle and change up a little bit, just that little bit of freedom. And the next thing you know, they catch a habit before they come home. And the same thing, that same person comes home, they ain't got no support, they ain't got no, I'm a stranger right now. I've been home a week and I've spent, I don't know, probably $800-900 on gas.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I drove Sanford to Machias. I've been in Portland. I've been in Gus. I've been traveling all this week, just seeing people and seeing what they're about, and seeing because everybody in prison, I call it prison Picassos. They sit there and they paint pictures of telling you what their life's like. Yeah. Oh, they got this. They got this. Nah, I've been driving around for the past week, and let me tell you, most of y'all ain't got it. You know what I mean? So Jeremy's doing good. You know what I mean? So hey, whatever. But like, so who do you want to team up with? Who do you want to figure life out with?
But let's be clear about this though. Is that I think like a lot of us come to this point at some point, right? Like because we're getting older, right? Like you just start getting older and you start going, man, I did it. Like I've suffered all these consequences to get to this point, right? Like you go through the pain and then you get on the other side of that. But like, where was that for you when you start? Because I just to put it in context too, is that like I say this because I'm Stevie, he was the guy would be hanging, he'd just be gone, getting lugged off one day. You know what I mean? Or I'd be next, and this is just how it was. It wasn't like. Just sitting in there, not,
we had motion.
Pretty wild, but we were kids, though. 18, 19, 20 years old.
And get to the bag one way or another. I'm going to get to it.
Right, and it was really, we felt like and it was a different time, really. We're talking about 99, 2000. It's a different mentality than.
We weren't selling dog food back then. Everybody just smoked weed, and that was it.
So there was just a different thing going on, and then, like, where did that change for you? Like, how did you get to the point now where you like say, I'd like to do something different?
Well, for me, really, the biggest change in my whole life was losing the closest person to me. And I've never lost. You don't know what you have in this life until you lose it all. And that's your freedom. It could be money, relationships, people that matter. This time, I mean, I did so good when I got out. I mean, now I'm not telling you I did it all in the right way because I've been lying to you guys right now. That'd be a lie. But I got it. This time when I got locked up, and compared to coming home last time, this time, like, it's a big difference to me. So about 2 years ago, I hit like rock bottom. I lost everybody, man. Like, and hold on, I wasn't getting mail this time. Like, when you come out and you're like 40, now I'm 42. I started doing time when I was 18 or whatever, even before that from Count Youth Centers. Like, it's not the same anymore. You have a different, like, your friends, if you ain't figured it out by then, if you ain't figured it out by 30, 35, dude, get out the fucking game. You know what I mean? Get a job.
Oh, man. Get a job. So important. But it's important for people to hear that.
You get a goal. If you don't have a goal, whatever your hustle is, get a goal, get focused, and go after it. Because otherwise, man, I've lost everything. You're talking to a person right now. I'm smart as hell. I could have done anything in this life. I'm smart. I'm strong. I'm fast. I'm quick. But I'm trying to tell you, yeah, I know. He's talking shit. He knows. Yo, I remember the days we played one-on-one. You know what I mean? But all I'm saying is I could have done a lot of things in this life, and here I am. You know what I mean? Here I am, 42 years old. Like wow, and it sucks because some people look up to me. You know what I mean? And for the wrong reasons. Because in the prison culture, people respect ignorance and stupidity.
Well, that's why we did what we did back when we did it. You know what I mean?
But also, it's
trying to fit into that moment, trying to make a name.
But it's also excitement, right? You talk about how a lot of people in prison turn to drugs to break up the monotony. A lot of people just fuck up to break up the monotony, right? Like, I'm gonna mess with this officer. Somebody disrespected me. Like, the monotony is getting to me, so I'm gonna do something. Like, a lot of people don't understand out here in society that, like, misbehavior in prison isn't the product of a bad person. It's the product of a bad system. So yeah, I'm gonna lash out because all I experience is oppression. And yeah, I'm gonna lash out because I'm bored. How many times have you seen people flood their cells, cut up, do outrageous things because they're bored? Not you know what I mean? Like that. People discount out here when they hear those stories. The stories are so shocking. But like for anybody who's listening who's never experienced it, the story's shocking to you because you can't comprehend for 1 second of your life what that amount of monotony and boredom is like. And you seek out, dudes make chess pieces out of their own shit in prison to break up the monotony of solitary confinement because they're not going to give me chess pieces. So I'm going to make them out of my fucking poop. Like, so I just want to frame for people that like, a lot of times we want to demonize and put people on this like moral binary when they're in prison. No, you can't do that until you understand what the environment is like. And for you to be here and talk about those things is super important. And it's why addiction cycles so much in prison. It's not just because people are addicts. It's also because the environment creates the only positive escape that somebody feels like in the moment is going to be to get high, right? And I just think it's like important for people to hear those stories that you're able to tell because like we have to talk about those things. I also think it's important because like I've known you for 15 years now, right? And like what Steve says is absolutely true. And it's also the thing that we discount about a lot of people coming home. You literally could do anything you want. Absolutely. And how many guys do all three of us know in prison that are habitually messing up, that are habitually breaking up the monotony of incarceration in all the most destructive ways, that literally have all the skills and intelligence necessary to do whatever they want out here in the world, but they're in an environment that provides them no real opportunity.
It's easier than what they're comfortable with. I think that's the problem right now. You know what I mean? Because I'm coming home right now. I'm in a decent situation for coming home right now. But at the same time, it's so easy because to get something done the right way out here, you got to go through bureaucracy and they got me going. I have to go to these places, all these different means. I'm still learning how to use the damn iPhone. You know what I mean? Like this is stuff. So I'm sitting there. And I like even a guy like me just trying to, let's say I'm just trying to get a medication, I get it canceled because I don't know how to even use the Wi-Fi on this, whatever. So I mean that's the bullshit that's out there where like people are just expecting us, somebody that's done so much time like myself, to walk out of prison and automatically be a civilian when I walk through the doors. No, I'm still got old habits die hard. You know what I mean? I can't help that.
Well, you're talking about 24, 25 years of...
Yeah, and it's finally over with, but that's a long... Yeah, so...
How to reprogram it out of your head.
Good luck. You know what I mean? That's a battle of my demons I got to go through every day. Because out here right now, like, I'm looking for a job to make 500, 600, 700, whatever a week, when I can sit here and go back to the streets in 2 seconds, but I'm fighting that urge. You know what I mean? Because if you fight that urge... There's a third trip after this for me. Guess what? I'm probably not coming home.
That one's going to be the one.
That's the one that I'm not coming home. So, and how many people do the three of us know right now that are good dudes up there that are just never coming home? And I told myself a couple years ago, I'm not dying in there. I'm going to die out here. I ain't going to die in there. And like to other people that don't understand that, do 25 years on the inside when you're only 40 years old, come back and talk to me. You don't want to die out in there. You don't want to wake up and just look at those four walls and think that's it. Your story's over. That's the end of your story. Because you got to ask yourself, when we're all dead, the three of us, and this is where you guys have been doing really good, what legacy are you leaving behind? What are they going to remember about you? You know what I mean? Is it this? You know what I mean? This is what we are. This is what we're going for. And then, like, what are people going to remember me? You know what I mean? What are people going to remember you for? And what did you do in your life? You know, next thing you know, you get in a funk and guys are coming out of prison and they get right back into the comfort. It's easy for you to get out here and get high and whatever. But next thing you know, you're going to be broke. You're going to be homeless. And then they go back to prison because in prison, everything is given to you. Out here, you have to go get it. If you're not a go-getter, you're going to be walking. You know what I mean? Or you're going to be not having stuff. And so you have to have that go-getter mentality on the inside. Everybody that's remembered down to your last 5 years, you better tighten up.
And you're absolutely right. It is that way. But I also think it's a damn shame that you have to be a dog to make it. Like you like, cause you're a smart guy and you have like things, you have your faculties about you, and you're a pretty natural sort of survivor. But not everybody's built that way, right? Not everybody's built in the same fashion, and I think it's, you know, to say blank, like you have to have this to succeed is like tough, man, to be in this society that, we have to have some kind of extraordinary way to survive in order to, you know what I mean? Because that means that most of the people that are coming home don't have the skills. The skills aren't there. You know what I mean? Or like, what if you don't just like literally don't have the ability to do that?
And not everybody's going to get the opportunity to learn or to get to certain classes, because you guys all know it's the same 10 people that get the same jobs or the same schools, the same this. You know what I mean? So a guy like me, when I went in at 18, I wasn't following rules. I wasn't doing all that. I wasn't doing it the right way. So I was doing it. I was getting respect inside the prison system the wrong way. But everybody was giving me, because that's what people do. They respect the ignorance, respect the violence, they respect all that. You know what I mean? And entertainment. And then 2 weeks later, nobody cares about you. You know what I mean? So I didn't have nobody to mentor me. I didn't have nobody to show.
Cause mentor each other, bro.
We had to. And look, you know what I mean? But between the two of us, only one of us listened. Two of us were talking, but one person was listening. You know what I mean? But it takes action. So you gotta figure that out. You gotta put the work in, man. And you know what I mean? Like we were watching. I used to play a lot of sports with Brandon here, and he'd be balling, doing this thing, whatever. And like we came from different sides of the fence. You know what I mean? Because like not everybody has support. Not everybody has families that took care of them. I didn't have that, so I wasn't. Once you get in trouble, and that's the problem. So a guy like me, I got in trouble a lot at the beginning.
You can never shake off that reputation. You can never shake off that.
Well, he was trying to earn good time. I was thinking about this when he was talking. So if you start losing good time on the first 3, 5 to 6 years of your 18-year sentence, you can't, there's not enough time to dig yourself out of the hole.
Well, it's interesting, though, because I also saw kind of the other side of that be true, too, that a lot of guys who would get in the most trouble would be the ones that would get the most when they finally started, like, quote unquote, turning it around. But that, like, complete flip that somebody would have to do, it was all, like, a lot of times it was suspicious to me. Right. When I would see guys like, damn, you've been everything that the prison has had a hard time with your whole bid. And now all of a sudden you've been out of trouble for 6 months and you got a better paying job than me and you got this, and you got that. And like, you're right that a lot of times that reputation is really hard to shake off unless you're willing to make certain sacrifices for the facility, whatever they may be, right? And like, or it's like, even when it's not that extreme, it's other shit. Like it's fake shit. You know what I mean? And so like you're 100% right that once you dig yourself that hole, most of the time there is no ladder out of it, and all you have is waiting for your day, right? But the thing that is really striking to me, like specifically about your story, Steve, and hearing you talk about it right now, and especially for like Jeremy and I, because we do have a long history, all three of us, of knowing each other and being together in that environment and seeing each other and talk, man. I think we had hundreds, about thousands of hours of conversations about everything under the sun. But what I'm realizing now in this moment, hearing you talk in the context of like what we hope to achieve with the podcast, is everything that you're saying proves that our system is the antithesis of what we want from it. It teaches people who go to prison the absolute wrong thing in every single thing. It doesn't prepare you to be better. It doesn't prepare you to be smarter or more mature. It doesn't prepare you to be more peaceful. It doesn't give you the tools you need after 18 years to come home and reintegrate into society. And in a state with no parole, in a state with no real reentry, in a state with like no real services for people outside of what ARCOM is providing to people, why is anybody in society accepting the system that we have when we can sit here and talk to hundreds and thousands of people who can tell us very, very plainly that the system failed me, society failed me, I made a mistake as a young man, and then I was failed by every single person who could have saved me?
Okay, one thing I'm going to say to that, though, the one thing I don't like about that, I don't want to be the poor me dude, because even myself, where I did 25, I don't think even the system failed a guy like me. What I feel is a person like me didn't take advantage of some opportunities that were placed in front of me when I wasn't opportunistic enough at that time, because I'm not on no poor me. I think it's about what you put into it, what you're gonna do, how you want to live your life, even on the outside or on the inside, and you gotta just work for it. You're just gonna get it. So We can't wait on them to give us stuff. We have to get it ourselves. We have to click up with the motivated inmates, the motivated people out here that are really doing it, not just talking about it, and putting it all together and get more people. Because I hear this all the time. Right before I was leaving, people always complain, the caseworker ain't getting this for me, or this person ain't getting this for me. Ultimately, we're all responsible for our own actions. We're all responsible for our own time. He's right, though. The prison system is not trying to help people, serve people 100%. Favoritism, it ain't happening. Only if you're a snitch or if you're fucking, they treat child molesters crazy now, like they're greater than their God. Like, it's nuts out there. But we got to put the work in, man. We gotta put the work in on yourself. Like you got all your education in there. I watched you. You know, what'd you get? A master's, doctorate, all the above. Like, there was, 5-10 people doing that? You know what I mean? So you took advantage.
Well, and I didn't take no for an answer. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about is like, you have to be willing to tell your caseworker, now you're going to do this shit. And if you're not going to do it, I'm doing this.
I just want to make this point again, though, that you're cut from a different cloth. And I don't think you should have to fight to get things like from a caseworker, right? Or like how do you like?
And that's the point that I'm making.
I mean, why do you have to scrap and fight for everything?
It's not a poor me mentality. See, I think this is the difference because I do hear what you're saying is because like I don't ever want to be a victim, right? But what I will say is it's almost like not a poor me mentality. It's a poor 10 million of us mentality because like the system has never been designed to actually do you what you need to be done, right? Like you had certain needs when you're 18 years old and you couldn't identify them. No. I had needs when I was 21 years old before I caught my case. And even though like, I mean, at that time in my life, I didn't have a support system, right? I rebelled against everything. I was on my own. I didn't speak to anybody in my family for 3, 4, 5 years. And I didn't know any better. I was just doing what to me felt like this is where my life is supposed to be headed, right? In the streets, fully adopting that, like, despite the fact that I didn't have any need to be there, I was like, but I'm going to be there and I'm going to be a monster, right? So I'm going to do whatever I got to do to make sure people respect me, even if it's for all the wrong reasons. So I had needs at that point. And I think the point that I'm making is like, we do train ourselves when we're in prison. Like, nah, I'm not a fucking victim. Right. But at the same time, the system is so big and so sinister that we have to be able to say and identify like, we have all been victims of the system, even though we don't want to live in that space, which actually is like one of the few powerful things about prison. I'm not going to live in a victim space. I don't do it in any aspect of my life because I couldn't do it when I was in prison. But the other part of it is what you're saying is also true. We can't live in that individual victimhood, right? We have to kind of like just stand up, keep our head up and keep pushing. But we also have to recognize that the system is fucked. But then the other part is here, what you just said. Now we have a responsibility as people who are coming home and doing the right thing to raise awareness about that. 100%. And so I do want to be somebody who tells enough stories and inspires people out here enough to go, hold on, that doesn't make sense. Why is our system like that? Because that's what it's going to take to change it, right? We got to have millions of people saying, nah, I don't accept that. I don't accept that you send an 18-year-old to prison for 18 years and you don't actually help him with anything and you leave for him to fend on his own and then we expect him to succeed when we get out here. I don't want that 36-year-old as my neighbor when they come home. We talk about this a lot. Who do you want to live next door to you? The person who went, who had to go away for a little while to learn what they needed to learn and we actually helped them with that? Or the person who went away for a long while and just survived doing whatever they had to do? That's a scary thing to think about, right? So I guess it's both and, right? Like, I'm not going to be a victim. You're 100% right about that.
Yeah, no, you're right. And like, even at the end of this bit, they refuse to let me even get on the computer. They refuse. Now, you're talking to a person that's done over 20 years in their afterlife. Like, they wouldn't even let me get on the computer, but I'm seeing people just sitting in that room or whatever, just all day long for no reason, checking out whatever they're checking out, using YouTube, whatever. Hey, respect it. They're getting it off and I wasn't. And I'm sitting here like, I'm trying to do some research. I don't even know how to use it. Like, my first bid, they didn't even have the internet. Yeah. It was pagers and pay phones and stuff. And I came out and I had to learn internet. Like, I still don't know how to do that. I suck at that. I lose my codes all the time, bro. But like, for me, it's hard. And nobody would give me any opportunities. But I'm seeing people that don't deserve it getting in trouble left and forth. And this was like the first time in my life, the last couple of years of this life, I was really trying to stay out of trouble. And anybody who really knows me, who's watching this, they know that wasn't always the way, but this really was. The last couple of years, I got myself set up as best as I possibly could, put my head down. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't go through a lot of trials and tribulations. I'd be lying to you if I didn't have to stay more humble than I've ever been in my life. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's hard. So I tell everybody, my rule is this: if it's not going to matter to your life an hour from now, don't do it. Don't do it, because we all got trigger words or trigger actions or anything in your life. But just think about this. An hour later from today, I tell everybody, if you're really mad about to do something stupid, think of these 2 words: bigger picture. And that's what we're working for. And what you guys is building is a bigger picture for other people by raising awareness and helping the next generation come up. Because it's too late for me.
It's not too late for you, though. And that's another thing that we talk about all the time, because you might be 42 and you might have 22 years in the system, but you also got 40 more years out here to make the difference and be who you want to be, and also just build a good life for yourself, because not everybody is supposed to do some great extravagant thing with their life. You might just have a conversation with somebody about your experience one day that changes the course of their life. And what more honorable thing to do than that, than to just tell your story and hope that it has an effect on somebody or changes their view about what the system is based on your experiences in it. And I also just want to name an irony that, that's why I love these conversations, man. I love having Stevie on here and other people that we've done time with on here, because I didn't even think about this till this moment. But like, the irony that you get out of prison, and who can stop you from being on the internet? Who can stop you from doing whatever it is that you need to do to succeed out here? Which these are skills that you have to have. Nobody is succeeding in this world today without understanding how to send emails and text messages and all that. If you're an off-the-grid person, it's because you have an elite set of skills that you could feed you could do all that. We don't get those skills when we're in prison. Nobody teaches us how to do that when we're in prison. So we only have one option. It's to fit into the world as it is. And one thing that I was just thinking about is, you're right. And you said this earlier, the same 10 people get the same jobs, get the same opportunities. And like, they're the people that have already established their rhythm, and they don't necessarily need every opportunity. But like, why are our prisons not preparing people to exist in the world? Every single person. There should be nobody in prison in the United States today that doesn't have an opportunity to be on the internet in some capacity. There should be nobody. And the wild shit is, we all did time in a state right now that probably has the most expansive programming available in the country when it comes to being online and stuff like that. There's a lot of states that nobody's on the internet. How do you expect somebody to come out and know how to file their resume online, know how to send an email for a job prospect, know how to do all these things? We need to catch up.
That's what we do. We need more life skills and vocational skills being promoted inside the jail systems. You got to prepare, because we do a lot of training, and you can get somebody even on substance abuse doing really good. But if you don't teach that person how to do a job or have a skill set when they come out here that makes them valuable, then where are they getting that value out of their life? You know what I mean? And like, that's a big thing people don't understand. They got to have, like, when we come out here, if you want it, you got to go get it. But if you don't have a skill, I want everything that everybody else has right now. I just walked out. I want it, right? And that's a natural reaction, but you got to be patient. You got to be humble. If you're not, and you want to get moved too fast, listen, you're going to have a record that looks like mine. You know what I mean?
I used to want to be a doctor, but I don't have the patience.
That's a broke doctor. Well, no, I don't have the patience. I really don't, but I'm trying really hard. And by humbling myself, I know I can stay out here and move it. But it's hard. Like, people coming home from the prison that didn't get to see work release, that didn't have opportunities out here, you got to get a place to live. You got to get vehicle. You got to get this. And life is happening. Life is going to come at you fast, whether you realize it or not. And it's not like being in prison where I know at this time I'm getting fed. At this time I'm getting my laundry done. At this time we're going to the gym.
I've been out 2.5 years. It's 7:24 at night. I literally just ate my first meal at 6. Because still, 2.5 years later, that structure that you're talking about is still ingrained in me. And so there's literally times where, like, I wake up and subconsciously I'm like, I miss chow. It is what it is. I'll eat at 6. You know what I mean? Like, these are things, this is the long-term effects of long-term incarceration. They're real. They're real. And by all measures, my shit is together.
Oh, I'm affected. I know that. By what you're saying by long term, like, I'm definitely affected. I know that, but I fight it every day to keep it masked. I fight it just being out here, just walking around your local Walmart, just driving around all the first. But now coming to my place, Lewiston was my home. I grew up here. I knew everything here. I came home after this time. I've been going everywhere, and I can't see nobody that I don't even see a face I recognize. And then think about all the people we know. I mean, not everybody ages the same. So, like, after 20 years and plus, like, you're looking around, I don't even recognize these people. Who are they? You know what I mean? I've been to every store. Ain't nobody come running up to me and say, you know what I mean? Yeah, so when you go, here's the other thing, too. In the prison system, you have that camaraderie. You know what I mean? Everybody, we hang out with the same cliques every day. So you look weird if you're stepping out of your square. But out here, like, what is it? Like, I don't know. It's tough for me, and I'm trying to the biggest struggle that I'm having right now is just finding your own rhythm. Like you have in prison, like you have that rhythm, you have that schedule, you have all that. Out here, if you don't keep some type of flow and rhythm that's going on with your life, good luck to you.
You got to find a state of flow out here, man. And it's like the hardest thing to find and one of the hardest things to maintain, but also one of the, like you're saying, one of the most important things that you could do is you got to create a structure for yourself. And it's tough, dude. It's been tough for me because, like, there's nobody enforcing it. I have to be my own enforcer now. And that's something that, like, I used to resent that I didn't have the autonomy that I wanted. And now I'm overwhelmed by the autonomy sometimes that I could do what I want, go where I want, when I want. I mean, I just got my probation terminated, so it's a whole different level now. I can literally do what I want and go where I want. I have anybody to answer to, and that shit feels overwhelming sometimes. And that's the effects of long-term exposure to trauma and incarceration is I'm waiting constantly for somebody to tell me what to do and when to do it so that I can function, and it's on me, right? And that's when you have to find that state of flow, and you have to find that routine and that structure and all those things, man. It's super important for people to hear these things. So if nothing else, maybe you run into somebody who's been locked up before and you can start to understand a little bit more about who they are and why they are, and maybe give them some patience and do all those things. But like, even we're talking about just like one flashback, we're talking about we need to give people more vocational skills and all that. Like, dude, you could have your construction and your, you could be NCCER certified and you could have your welding certificate. Yeah, if you can't send it, you can't get any of those jobs without sending an email nowadays. You know how somebody would react to one of us going up to them? Like if I just went to Fisher Platt, well, let's not say Fisher Platt because they contract with the Department of Corrections. But if I just went to some random place where I could weld for a profession, and I just walked in and was like, yo, I'm looking for a job. I have my welding certificate, and I'm a hard worker. They look at you like, what the fuck? Email us, bro. You crazy? You can't walk up in here like this. That's real. So if we don't give people the real applicable skills to exist and succeed in society today, then why are we going to expect them to? And that's a question I just hope that people always ask with this podcast. The more we tell these stories is like, damn, I never thought about it that way. And how am I going to expect somebody to succeed when they literally have no idea what they're returning to?
Yo, he's dead on because nobody ever taught me how to use an email. This is stuff I've been practicing and trying to learn today. You know what I mean? Nobody's ever taught me how to do this stuff, so I'm self-taught, self-learned. What my question is this: how do we get people to care? Because back to what you said about caseworkers and all that stuff, what I've seen in my history is, I hate this, is when they go from being a CO to a caseworker. So you got to get a caseworker to be just a caseworker, so that cares about.
Well, and then they go to being a unit manager, and then they go to being a deputy warden, and then they go to being a deputy commissioner. How many caseworkers did we do time with who kept their mace and their handcuffs on them and responded to codes?
They were backup security, if not full. You know what I mean?
And that's not a caseworker.
They were in the front line, ready to go. That's not the mentality of a caseworker. Right, and that person, because they have that corrections officer's attitude where they just don't want to work all day, they just want to relax and catch this check. So my question is, though, like, how do you get people to care?
I think this is how. I think people hearing your story will get them to care. And I think how many people like Jeremy, how many guys do you work with that come home and come into ARCOM, and one of the biggest things you're doing with them is getting them to like be comfortable telling their story and like asking for help and all these things. I think we come home and we feel this sense of paralyzation, where I guess it would be paralysis. We feel a sense of paralysis, right? I can't tell people my story because I'm going to get all this judgment and all this stigma, and people are going to think this and think that about me. And I think we live in a world now where it's the opposite. I think you've got to tell people your story, and I think you've got to find the times and the platforms so people can actually hear you and see you. Because when you tell people what you've been through and how the system set you up for failure, not as a victim, right? Just saying, this is the reality of my situation. It's real. How I always look at it like this. What are the stories that people hear about us every day when we're not telling them?
Nothing good.
And I think that's how we get people to care. I think, in my experience, it's getting people to challenge what they've known and what they've believed through your personal experience. And I hope that's the whole reason this exists. This whole podcast exists because we want to force people to confront the door and then confront the stories behind the door, right? And I think that I think it is working to tell people our stories, man. I hope it is. I'm going to keep doing it.
I'm with you on it, man. I got you. Thank you for inviting me today, too, by the way. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being on. It's good to see you, bro. What people don't know is I haven't seen you in it's been 8 years, man. Jeremy, what do you want to say just to conclude for this episode, man? What do you got to say to everybody that's listening in?
I'm just, personally, I'm just really excited for Stevie to be home, and really like what Stevie was talking about earlier was in people, I just imagine, I can remember doing time, as Stevie said, where we clicked up, you know what I mean? I think about that at that period in my life where most of those guys are gone now. There's only you know what I mean? Most of them are literally gone. I think 3 of them went this year.
Mm-hmm.
You think about that impact, and I'm just grateful that you're here and that you still have it. You know what I mean? We're still here. You know what I mean? Because that means something to me too. Because how many more people really have to go out like that when they can connect to a community and be a part of something. Hopefully that might, like you were saying, Stevie, we gotta get connected, right? We gotta have the structure, we gotta have the support and all that stuff. And I wish that some of those guys would have jumped in, or stayed in, you know what I mean, with the positive, on the positive side of things, man. And I hope that you stay so that as a power of example to those other guys that are still out here too,
And especially the power. It's such a weird thing because we don't have, nobody ever teaches us to believe this, but there's a power in the fact that your bid was exactly the way that it is. So anybody else going in, subscribing to that mentality because it's what we've been conditioned to believe, can actually see you turning it around and really go, man, I can do that too. I can admit, because I was able to get my education and stay really dedicated to fighting the system the whole time that I was in, and since I've been home, it's for some people that did completely different bids for me, it's abstract, right? They're I didn't do that with my time. Right? And so for you to be able to say, and come on here and say, I'm fucking smart, I'm intelligent, I could do anything that I want to do, and then actually go through pursuing that is going to be so key for people, man, coming home and realizing that, I did my bid similar to Stevie, and look what Stevie made of himself. I could do it too, and then you're laying the footsteps for people to walk in after you.
Trying to be a pathfinder, man. That's all that's left for me. You got to find your purpose. And my purpose is being a pathfinder and showing good people, to select good people that I like, but I hope anybody can learn something. How I'm going to show them I came from nothing, and this is how I'm going to get to it, just by hard work, determination, staying humble. And I want to lead other people because, listen, man, there's a lot of good people behind those walls right now. There's a lot of bad people, too. Don't get it confused. But there's a lot of good people, and they just don't know how to make it out here. They just need a little helping hand, a little bit of education, and that's all it really is. That's all it really is. And I want to help those people. I want to be their pathfinder. Because at the end of the day, for anybody who's listening to this, you don't want to do 25 years. Don't flex on Facebook and act tough. I see a lot of Facebook flexing out there and some internet tough guys. Listen, you don't want to do 25 years. It sucks. Nothing great about it. You want to be out here.
There's no glory in it. That's one thing that everybody that comes home will tell you. They might fake it, but they'll tell you if you get a vulnerable moment with them, there's no glory in that shit, man. Yeah, I'll say, I just want to do a quick shout out. Steve and Jeremy talked about, how significant the loss is. And if you're a first-time listener or you've only listened to a couple episodes, check out our episode on loss, because we do unpack some of that about, you know, how hard it is to confront those things and how that really shouldn't be the reality that we face, how many people we lose while we're in and when we come home to these epidemics that are very much related to our systems of mass incarceration and punishment. But so check out the episode on loss if you've never heard it, and so, you know, a part of this conversation, you know, struck a chord with you. But as always, Stevie, man, thank you. Jeremy, thank you. Listeners, thank you. Subscribe, download, share, follow us on Instagram, Behind the Door Maine. Follow us on Facebook, Behind the Door. Check us out and keep helping us spread this word out and tell these stories that are all too important, because they've never been told before. And when they haven't been told in their complexity and in the right ways. So thank you for listening in. It's another episode of Behind the Door, man. We appreciate you guys.